Okay.
But there's a rumor that there's this intimidating toothbrush that's been terrorizing people. And so,
Listen, Linda.
Have you been ran out of your home?
Listen.
Have you been ran out of your home because of an electric toothbrush or something?
I really did think I was praying over my family. I was praying that we would not have a bomb go off in our home. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
No,
I don't even know.
Do you want me to tell you guys what happened?
I'm afraid to hear this.
I'm afraid.
So it was a Monday morning a week ago, and I sleep really hard on Sunday nights because Sunday's a really, really big day for ministry, for worship leading and stuff. And so like I was out and I was awoken from a dead sleep by a terrible noise. And it sounded...
Sounds like a Christmas story.
That's what I was thinking.
And what was a clatter?
Listen, it sounded like someone was sawing through my wall and there was water, like a waterfall. And I called Justin, I put it on speakerphone and I said, babe, this is not good. Like something really, really bad has happened. He's like, I'm just now pulling into the plant. And I'm like, it's really bad. And he goes, okay, I'm pulling away from the plant. and he came home and for 25 minutes, that's how long it takes him. I prayed and I called him again. I said, do I need to take the kids for safety? I got the dogs out of our room because I thought that my room was going to blow up and we were all going to die. I was really, really scared. And he came home and
and what was it, Lindsay? What was it?
He opens the shower door and he said, babe, looks like my toothbrush fell off the ledge and somehow got turned on. Turned the toothbrush off. And we were saved. My hero.
I'm not going to lie to you guys. I'm a little bit shocked. So can I speak on behalf of the audience?
Please.
Okay. Here's what everybody, y'all feel free to chime in and tell everybody that you're agreeing with me here.
Yes.
So I learned a lot about you already. So here's the question.
Okay.
You know, there are on this planet, when something happens, there are a million possibilities.
Yes.
You went straight to the house is going to blow up.
I went straight to the Lord in prayer.
Well, that
for
was
my
after,
house.
After your house is going to blow up. I mean, why couldn't it have been that there is a mole who is bore into your house?
Listen, when I was like in
How about, when
I was in
tiny
middle
little
school, our water
It was
heater
an Al Qaeda
exploded.
mole. It was going to blow up, okay?
Our water heater exploded when I was in middle school.
Well,
in the bathroom right next to my...
Not only do I get a lot out of your sense of humor and just the way, just how kind and open you are, but also just the way you get into things is, for someone like me, it's great to be around because it's shown me a brand new way to be able to live. So I can't possibly say enough good things about you except that I love you.
Terry, you have made a huge impact in my life. I'm so grateful that God has brought you into my life. As much as you have poured out, I still feel like you are this pool of wisdom that we've yet only had sips of.
The big overarching takeaway for me that I appreciate is you're the real deal, right? You're the genuine article, and you live what you talk about. You don't just say you can do this, you can do that. You actually run and operate and live in that lifestyle business, not just talk about it as a theory.
I'll speak for me for a moment. In my life, oftentimes, I go in and I push that button, and I push it gingerly in the hopes that I can get one of the rings to go up and hit the hook. And whenever it's your turn to talk, you kind of say, Case, move over for a second and take that button and jam it and hit it 19 times to get every ring flying in the air. And that's kind of the feeling that I have whenever you talk. It's like, wait a minute, let's shake this up a little bit. Let's shake the snow globe and see what happens. Like right now, Terry, I am so inspired after listening to you for the last 25, 30 minutes to go back and do about 400 things, of which I might have done one prior to you talking, but you got me so jazzed up to go in there and accomplish something, because often we need people like that, with agitators, somebody to come in and agitate things and say, hey, look, you can do a lot more than you're doing. Look at me. And Terry, I've always liked looking at you, and I'm hopeful that I can be more like you going forward. So thank you for everything.
I'm still blown away by your story. It's incredible. And so it's just so inspiring. And so, I mean, I feel like you embody that. Like when I think about you, it's hard to separate you from that incredible story that you have. And so it's such a gift to us to get to just be in the presence of someone who has that story and who has come as far as you have. And with that, the second word was experience, because with that, you just bring so much experience. There's so much value in what you say. Amazing coach. So like just vast experience. I feel like you're able to speak into so many of our lives in so many different situations. And it's always like on point and helpful and thoughtful. And then the third was humble, because I feel like you do all of that with so much humility. Like you don't, I feel like you don't pat yourself on the back a lot, or, say, oh, I'm this great person. It's kind of hidden behind this, oh, I've just got a little comment here for you, filled with all of this value.
When I think of Terry Wilson, I think about the comeback kid. Your original story of how you built the piano business and how the market of 2007, 2008, that crash, and how you came back and you built something that is what it is today. And yet here you are.
Hey, Terry. I think today has just demoed exactly the brilliance that you share. The humor, it's guaranteed that every time that Terry's got the mic, there's going to be laughter amongst the group. And I'll extend that into honoring your skills as an interviewer and as a podcast, because I had jumped on a few months ago because I hadn't listened to your podcast, and content can draw us in, but the people who lead the conversation and the skill behind that, I was pleasantly surprised and impressed, and I've kept you in my circle because of that. So I think the lens in which you see the world is so amazingly beautiful. I love that you're real. You talk sports, you talk music, you talk the things that come to our heartbeat of being a part of this country. And it draws people in, and I'm one of those individuals. And I also think you're genuinely gentle, sincere, and you're like, a cousin or an uncle that, I just want to hang out with more and more each time. So you light us up, and that's not something easy to do week in and week out, in just the waves of our own lengths and the commitments that we have in our circles. So I am grateful for all that you bring to us and all that you've shared with us, and definitely the laughter as well. So
what's up, Fire Nation? Another bonus episode coming your way. This one was a great chat. I had a lot of fun with Terry Wilson. Terry is a serial entrepreneur who offers entrepreneurs and solopreneurs the tools, training, and technology needed to earn and enjoy more. For the past 13 years, he's helped thousands of hungry individuals discover their thing, develop the skills to do it, and be given a strategy to deliver it to market and produce value. Terry has a weekly podcast that can be heard on iTunes, Stitcher, and at terrywilson3.com. He also wrote a book called You Are Worth More, which you can check out at youareworthmorebook.com. We have a lot of fun in this episode, Fire Nation. I truly hope you enjoy. It's hard. It is hard work to achieve uncommon success. But you know what else is hard, Terry? Being broke.
You better believe that.
Living paycheck to paycheck, not being able to support your loved ones, not being able to support yourself, not being able to get up in the morning and do something that you want to do, but doing something you have to do. That's hard too. So Terry, my call to action for everybody here is choose your hard. Like back in 2012, it was hard. I spent 32 years of my life doing hard work and making the wrong decision on choosing my hard. I was going down the wrong path. I wasn't having any success. But then I flipped it and I said, you know what? Building this business, Entrepreneurs on Fire, it's going to be hard work. But the alternative is hard too. So I choose the hard of building a life of freedom, of building a life of choice, of building a life of uncommon success. And that's my call to action to everybody hearing our voices today. Choose your hard.
Choose your hard. Boy, I love that. Because there's a high cost of low living. And sometimes we think that, we're just going to get out of this easy by taking the path of least resistance. And boy, sometimes the end of that path is just a tiger. I'm telling you, brother.
Identify your big idea. Not be a weak, pale imitation of somebody else's big idea, which most people do. They're like, oh, look at what Terry's doing. He's so successful. Look what John's doing. I'll just copy them. And then you wonder why you fail, because you're a weak, pale imitation of those people and you will never win as a result. You need to come up with your big idea your zone of fire and wake up every day on fire, living that life. That is the life that you deserve. Because what at the end of the day do we really want? Freedom. The ability to wake up and do what we want, where we want to do it, with whom we want to do it with. If you have those three things, what more is there in life? And you can give yourself that gift. Just take it.
Which is identifying why are you here? You know, I like to say it this way. You're not a cosmic accident. You didn't show up on planet Earth because lightning struck a mud puddle billions of years later and you crawled out. You're a significant person with a significant reason for being here. There's a reason for you to be here. And once you identify that big idea, as John just said it, life becomes, oh my gosh, becomes unimaginable. Give us go ahead.
Just on that point real quick. I mean, I think it's so key for people to understand this, like what Terry is just sharing. There is so much wisdom out there in this world, but there's also so much noise and it's chaotic. And sometimes it's so hard to really cut through all of this and to really get to the meat and potatoes, to really get down to what matters.
Does anyone know Terry's story, what Terry did?
I do.
So Terry sold musical instruments, sold pianos, right? And what was it? Was it 9/11 that created the problem?
Yeah.
9/11 creates a problem. Nobody wants to go. There's no money in town anymore. It's a brick and mortar store. Some woman comes up to him in church, some older woman, and she's like, I was thinking about your problem, and the Lord told me you should sell them on the computer. Sell your pianos on the computer. And Terry's like, that's a great idea. I got to get out of here because you're crazy. So, of course, he does it in that sweet way where he says, oh, bless your heart. And
bless your heart.
He thinks about it. And then he's like, you know, he told me about the story about, you know, the guy, it's a flood and, you know, you should get out. No, the Lord's going to save me. And at the end, he goes to God and says, why didn't you save me? He's like, I did. You know, I tried. I sent you the news report. I sent you a helicopter. You know. So Terry takes that and he's like, God's telling me what to do here, right? So that was the message. I should sell these things online. His first thought when the woman tells him that is, how am I gonna, because she said her grandson sold CDs.
On eBay.
Yeah, Terry's like, how am I, you could just I can't put a stamp on a piano. This is crazy.
Drop it in the mailbox.
Yeah, so next day, right? The next day he starts sells them out in a week. So he doesn't think about, he doesn't latch on to his idea of I can't ship these things cheaply, right? He just goes past that. He goes, well, what's my first solution? My first solution is I got to sell these things. That's all he's thinking about. He sells out his whole inventory in a week. Then the problem comes to him. How do I get rid of these things? I've now sold them. How do I deliver them? So what would you guys have done?
Hire a U-Haul and drive them out there.
Yeah, that's what Terry did. Terry got a truck and just was like, well, I'm gonna take my brother-in-law. We're gonna go around the country. We're going everywhere. And he delivered pianos for 2 weeks. That's amazing. And then, you know, and then he's like, oh, and the next thing is I talk to someone and as he goes and he talks to the manufacturer and he's like, so, you know, where are these things? You know, if I want to get them, how do I sell them? And he doesn't go into the conversation with the idea of, I'm going to figure out how to make this more efficient for myself. Or maybe he does to a degree, but he doesn't make that his outward appearance. He's not desperate. He's desperate, but he doesn't portray desperation. He portrays, as he's talking to the person, he's asking them questions about their business, and they give him the keys to the kingdom. They tell him the whole layout. They tell him exactly how to run his business. Now, in Watergate, did you ever hear, like in the first week after Watergate, Woodward and Bernstein spoke to a Spanish guy down in Mexico, and the joke was, he told us exactly what happened, but we don't speak Spanish, so we lost the story. It turns out that was true. They got the whole thing in the first week, but didn't understand it. Terry got the whole thing in the first week and put it together. He hears, you have warehouses all over the country, so why don't I sell them and then you guys will just deliver them locally? He gets that in an instant. He doesn't think about the problem. He doesn't think they're not going to do it, any of this stuff. When I hear about Terry selling them and he just gets in a truck, my first thought with that is, I know.
Welcome to TerryWilson3.com.
Over 1 decade of helping others
discover, develop, and monetize your skills and talents at TerryWilson3.com.
This is the Terry Wilson. Really, I'm excited, Terry. I want to get started.
You're the real deal, right? You're the genuine article.
Right now, Terry, I'm so inspired after listening to you for the last 25, 30 minutes to go back and do about 400 things. You got me so jazzed up.
I'm still blown away by your story.
When I think of Terry Wilson, I think about the comeback kid.
You're like a cousin or an uncle that I just want to hang out with.
Terry, you have made a huge impact in my life.
Can't possibly say enough good things about you except that I love you.
Here's your host, Terry Wilson.
It's not Terry Wilson, it's me. Welcome, everyone. You know it's going to be a great show because I'm in the studio here by myself, so what could go wrong? Just so you know, my brother Reagan is currently suffering from some side effects from a new human genome governmental experiment developed by lizard people. So I'm sure he'll be back eventually. Might have an extra finger or something, but hey, he could probably use an extra finger anyway. My grandmother's deaf, so maybe he'll be able to talk faster to her later on. Well, then there's Dad. What can you say? My old man is getting older. Tomorrow's his birthday, so I don't know how that justifies him being off today. But I'm sure he'll come up with some reason that makes sense for me to be in here doing this by myself. Seriously though, today's going to be a great show. You know everyone wants to make a lot of money, but what if making all that money creates tons of risks too? So today, my dad is talking to two experts. First, he will be speaking to Laurie Brown, aka Miss Spelling Bee, about how to create a ton of traffic, leads, and potential clients to speak with. And then he's speaking with his friend, attorney, and former ADA from New York on how to make sure you are writing smart, safe, and strategic business. So let's get into the first part of the show now. Here's Daddy and Miss Spelling Bee talking about the new tools in the TW3 app and how you can start them now to grow your business.
Thank you, River. Well, the one, the only, the legend in my mind, and I know in your mind as well. The lady that keeps me straight, she is my administrative six. She's always watching my administrative backside, if you will. Miss Spelling Bee, all the way out there in San Antonio. How you doing?
I'm great. We've got a beautiful day today. I walked outside today and I was like, man, I love Texas.
I'm looking in your background. I was like, I love Texas. Yeah. That is gorgeous.
Here it's mid-November and it's just a beautiful 80 degrees, sunny.
You and Larry Dodson just love to rub it in every time I talk to you guys. Oh, the weather's just so great. And I'm over here like it's cold and it's wet and it's like, ah.
Well, the weird thing is that we're getting into the season where some days you have to turn on air conditioning and then the next day you have to turn on the heat for a couple of days. And then you turn the air conditioning back on and you do, and you do that till next spring when you just leave it on.
Yeah. Well, that's sort of where we're at right now. Sometimes we got the heat on, sometimes we just don't have the heat on and it's just the natural temperature of the house. But it's in that weird season where you're always messing with the air. And I don't know about you, but it just messes with my sinuses. I mean, but
doesn't bother me.
You guys are out there isn't that a desert, more of a desert area in San Antonio?
It's drier, but there's a thing called cedar fever here.
Okay.
Now it doesn't affect me. But for people who have allergies, the cedar, it
messes with them.
It's awful, but it doesn't bother me. I don't know. I grew up in Ohio. So what do I
what do I know?
What do I know?
Yeah. What part of Ohio?
Near Cleveland.
Cleveland. Well, Cleveland rocks. No wonder you love music so much up there at the.
There you go. The Rock Hall of Fame.
Rock Hall of Fame. Yeah. Did you?
In fact, I lived in Cleveland because we moved back there from Kentucky when LeBron James was first signed to the Cavs.
I'm so sorry you had to witness that. That's dark days, I'm sure.
Yeah. So soon after that, I left
because Reagan's not here.
I left. I'm like Davy Crockett. I said, y'all can go to hell. I'm going to Texas.
You are definitely, I don't care if you were born in Ohio, you have the Texas swagger and attitude. That's why I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, Miss Bellamy, I'm excited about tonight's show for several reasons. Number one, you're on it. But number two, you're on it in the full context of what I feel like this show is going to be able to do is if you will afford me a biblical term to give the whole counsel of entrepreneurialism. Because
maybe a little bit.
Yeah, well, no, seriously, you're going to be addressing the number one need that you as an entrepreneur, small business owner has got to have. And that's, you got to have leads. You got to have people coming to you. You got to have a means to drive that traffic either into your retail store, your restaurant, your inbox, if you're doing email, whatever you're getting, whatever mechanism you're using to get in front of people, or platform that is. It could be a brick and mortar, it could be over the phone, it could be online, but you got to have a means to get people to you. And you have, with your background and then understanding our platform, are really going to be able to speak with authority on how all this SEO and backlinking using Yext and all these other listing services are going to really be able to help our members and potential future clients who would want to leverage our application and our platform. You're going to be able to teach them tonight how they're going to be able to get in front of tons of people. And we've got a lot of other content out there. We've talked about the texting app before, the voice broadcaster, the blog, all of these different marketing tools. So we've had that. We have this other content that we're going to bring up tonight too, which is, not only do you want high quantities of leads coming to you and potential opportunities to speak with people, but then you want to be strategic and really write the right kind of business. Be smart about it. Be safe about it. Because just because someone has a credit card, and we've said it many, many times, we say it just about on every show, but just because someone can doesn't mean they should. And sometimes you as the professional have to go that extra mile and stop someone from hurting themselves just because, sometimes self-awareness isn't where it ought to be, or they just don't understand the risk involved as well as they ought. And so we've got Neil coming on a little later. He's going to be talking about, how to protect yourself, and ultimately you'll be protecting others as well.
Well, and I think that's wise counsel, Terry, because, you've got to have enough self-worth and belief in yourself to understand that you can and should be selective.
Yes.
In who you choose to do business with. It's your decision, your choice.
It's your business.
You get to decide. And honestly, not everyone, you don't need to take on every client. You get to choose who you get to work with.
That's right.
And you should.
And it's not a reflection on that other person, because I was talking to someone last week and I told him, I said, listen, this client is perfect for you. And I'm glad you wrote him. I wouldn't have. And he just looked at me and I was like, I'm just telling you what they need would be pulling on the weaknesses that I have. Therefore, I individually, as an individual coach, would not be serving them well. And I would have walked away from the business. However, I'm not saying you should have, because you are stronger in this, this, and this than I am. And they're going to be, and those are the things they need. And so when people hear us talking tonight, they don't need to hear it from the perspective, well, we're better than them, and therefore we're passing judgments. No, we're saying understand where you are individually, and then understand where other people are through your vetting process, and then make a business decision.
Right. And you're kind of matching up strengths and weaknesses there. And, if they're weak in something that you're strong in, good match.
Yeah.
If you're weak in something they're also weak in.
Ooh.
Maybe not so much. Or if they're weak in everything, maybe, we can help them in other ways. But
yeah. So before we get into your training, I wanted to ask you, I had an email that came in, and I'll paraphrase the email. And it says this. It says, Terry, you've got a ton of different marketing tools. You got a ton of different marketing training. You got a ton of different mindset trainings out there. But I am overwhelmed. Give me one mindset training, one marketing tool, and one marketing strategy I should master just to get started, because I don't want to get overwhelmed. There's so much. Give me either a mindset or just this person. Just break it down. One thing. Just give me one thing. So I've got my answer. I'm putting you on the spot, but I'll let you pick from the three. If you said, hey, start with this, just do this one thing, either mindset, a marketing strategy, or a marketing tool, what would you offer that person?
Well, I'm going to go straight to mindset first,
Okay.
because you've got to get your mindset right before
agree.
you do anything else.
Yeah.
And I'm going to fall back on the 7 decisions.
Yeah.
And the one that I always lean on, rely on, is you persist without exception. What does that mean? Without exception means you don't quit when you're almost there. You just keep going until you get there. And, you know, it is a lot. You know, you don't learn everything. You know, you don't learn how to be a doctor or a lawyer in a day. It takes years of practice and education. And you just got to every day get up and say, I'm going to persist today. What am I going to learn today? There's nothing new under the sun, right? But you don't know everything.
Right.
So you've got to adopt. And I learned this from my dad. God love him. He passed away a few years ago, but at 92, he was still reading like the Kiplinger report. And so, I mean, so I grew, and he was an educator too. So I kind of grew up with, you continue your education.
Yeah.
You continue your self-edification your whole life. Yeah. There's always something that you can learn.
Yeah.
But you can't learn it all at once. So you just take those little bites day in and day out, for your whole life.
Yeah, I like that. Persist. And then I've heard you say that to me and others many, many times. Persist without exception.
That's right.
And that's a great mindset. I will mine for this person as well. So there's one that you could take from. Mine is a little bit different in that, and it's going to sound odd, but and for me, this mindset will inform all my activity, and that's this. Don't allow your sense of self-worth or value be influenced or controlled by anyone under the sun. You and your God is the only one that gets to define your value. Okay. And you say, oh, that's just piety and this. No, let me explain how that informs your business and everything else. If I have a sense of, if this person doesn't like me, or, my value comes from this client has to like me or think I'm the smartest one in the room or this or that, then all of a sudden I'm all of a sudden not being genuine. Okay. And I'm writing business that maybe I shouldn't, just because I feel like I've got to do something to feel worth something, or I'm out creating videos standing in front of rented jets or cars trying to be something I'm not. Or it informs your marketing, it informs your posture, it informs the way you communicate with people. If you will have and develop enough self-value and self-worth, then it permeates everything you say, everything you do, how you carry yourself. You're not afraid of someone saying no. I can pick up the phone and cold call or do whatever type of marketing or sales activity I want. I can be called an SOB, some other boss. I can be called whatever someone wants to call me. And I was like, well, I irritated, Laurie, you'll find this funny. Someone had something negative to say a couple months ago, and it was in the world or realm of business, and they said something disparaging, and I was like, well, that's not even my worst feature. And I started listing all some other things I'm terrible at, and it just irritated them because the good book says to agree with your enemy. So I mean, I was like, yeah, I'm weak there, but let me tell you something else. I'm even worse over here if you think that's bad. And it's sort of frustrating. But the point is, what I'm communicating is the reality. You don't get to define how I'm going to feel, how I'm going to act, how this business is going to run, how I'm going to do business, the terms of my business, anything else, and people, they read into it wrongly with that posture because they say, he's this one, he's take it or leave it. But yeah, I am. It is what it is. This is the way we do things. And, we're not everybody's cup of tea. We're not everybody's flavor of the month, So, there's other ice cream parlors out there. Go get, but this is what we do.
Yep. And in the end, there's a saying, some will, some won't. Who cares?
Who cares? And that's the beautiful thing about what you're about to teach right now, which is you master these tools, you use these things, then the more people you're in front of, the more people you get to talk to, the more opportunities you're at bat. You're not freaking out just because the person you're talking to right now doesn't like you, has rejected you, has said negative things. Who cares? Go on to the next one. Because if you got your pipeline full, you don't care.
And, I think if you take that approach, because I think when you're in front of a prospect and you're trying to make a sale, or if you're desperate to make a sale, you can try to hide your desperation all you want. But I mean, even over the phone, they may not even see you. They can sense that you are just desperate to make a sale. And that's when you don't make a sale.
That's exactly right.
When you're making sales, you don't care if you get the next sale because you have a whole bunch you just made. And then it just starts the snowball of you're just making sale after sale because you don't care if you make the sale or not.
That's right.
That's a cool spot to be in, but it's all in your posturing and your positioning and in your attitude.
Which starts with the way you think about yourself.
Exactly.
If you will master the value proposition within yourself, I'm telling you, things open up. I don't know who the trainer was. It was a book or something, but he said this. He said, needy is sleazy. And if you come across needy, it comes across sleazy.
And that turns people off. That, people in the end, they buy from people they like.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not even a matter of do they even want or need, or can they afford what you're selling?
It's just
if they like you,
that's right,
they're gonna buy from you. If they pick, if they sense that what you said, needy is sleazy, if they can sense that, they're you've just turned them off.
Yeah. So, but you won't feel needy if listen, I've got a system in place, a strategy that I'm working. I've got something that's going on. And I'm not going to feel anything if people don't dig on what TW is doing. That's the way I've had to. So that was my, the advice I would give. Persistence, another great advice. As far as the tools and stuff, just pick the one that comes easiest to you. Just the main thing is you just want to get the one that's going to get you in front of the people the easiest, fastest for you. So, I mean, that's just that. Next week, guys, is our special Thanksgiving show. Make sure you're on there. If you are a member on tonight and you would like to have your Thanksgiving played on next week's show, just send in a call. Just call 507-9696, 507-9696. And record your Thanksgiving. This is what I'm thankful for, and we will air it. If you are a member, we will air it on next week's show. And Laurie, but wait, there's more. Next week, I have a friend of mine that's going to be joining me in the studio, Jamie Harville. I don't know if you know that name or not, Laurie, but he has written tons and tons and tons of songs that if you are in any contemporary evangelical church, since the late 80s, early 90s till today, Ancient of Days, Firm Foundations, everything. Him and Don Moen have toured together, played together, written songs together. He was on the Lift. He wrote half the songs on the Lift Him Up album with Ron Canoli, I think. So a lot of big stuff in the 90s, especially when that whole purpose-driven church movement started taking place and all that. He's been a great friend of mine. Well, he'll be in talking about being an artist, being creative, writing something, pursuing your passions, and being a believer in business space. And because he's a wonderful worship leader and a wonderful person as well. And I want to pick his brain. He's played at the Ryman several times, so I want to ask him about that experience as well. So a lot of fun stuff, because I know you're a big musician and guitar fan, and just went and heard, who was it Sunday?
Tommy Emmanuel.
Tommy Emmanuel.
Oh man, it was unbelievable. This is like the 8th time we've been to see him. We had front row center. We were literally sitting directly in front of him. And not only is he an amazing guitar player, but his charisma, his stage presence, and just the joy that you see coming from him when he is doing something and creating something that he loves. And he said this during the show, the happiness that he brings to people. That's his mission.
Wow.
And he's truly, truly gifted. So it was amazing.
I tell you what, I love watching people that have grabbed a hold of that which has grabbed a hold of them, because it's intoxicating. I mean, that's why I love sports. I love music. I love business and entrepreneurs. Anybody that's mastered a craft, and they're doing what they were put on planet Earth to do. It is just fun to watch.
Yep. As a matter of fact, his concert last night, Sunday, was in Austin, and we half entertained the idea of we could go run up to Austin and see him again.
Wow.
But we didn't.
That is so cool. Well, let's get into Miss Spelling Bee's training right now on Yext. And then when we get back, I'll be talking to my friend and yours, all the way up there in New York City, the town so nice they named it twice, Mr. Neil O'Reilly, right after this training with Laurie.
Hello, friends, and thanks for joining tonight. I am Laurie Brown, aka Miss Spelling Bee, and tonight we're going to be talking about online listings through Yext, which can be got through the TW3 app. We're going to be talking about why they're important, how to get listed on the search engines and other places, and why they're important, who's shopping on the internet and what are they looking for. So let's just get right into it. Did you know that businesses with complete optimized location listings receive 52% more clicks from local search? Now, it's important to understand what is a listing. It's basically a NAP. Don't take a nap yet. It's NAP, name, address, and phone. Some people like to call them citations. Citations are when a business is mentioned somewhere online. And the more citations a business has, the more likely their business is to appear higher in search rankings. Now, it's important to remember that they must match everywhere, and you can only have one single NAP per location. Inconsistencies actually reduce the trust level with Google. The more spots that a business is listed across the web, the better. And what it does is it adds massively to the trust level that Google gives to a website when hundreds of other directories have that same NAP. If a business moves or changes a phone number or their business name even, then Google sees these inconsistencies, and thus that reduces their trust level with Google. So how does this information get out there? Well, it gets out there through aggregators, and there's 4 main providers: Factual, Axiom, Info Group, and Localize. And the problem is incorrect data, one error gets copied across hundreds and hundreds of sites. And it's not just on Google, but other search engines and online directories like yellowpages.com, Verizon Super Pages, Yelp, Merchant Circle. Again, there's literally hundreds of them. They get their data from the aggregators to get more content onto their site. You have to remember that content drives usage. So the more content they have on there, hopefully that's going to drive traffic to their site. So that's why they pull in this data from these aggregators. But the problem is one error copied across hundreds and hundreds of sites equals lost trust. And going back to the Wayback Machine here a little bit, if you think about Yellow Pages back in the day, if a business wanted to be found in the phone book, they would call their telephone company, hook up a business line, and then that would get them listed in the business white pages, the Yellow Pages, as well as 411 information. Now we see businesses are running their businesses, a lot of contractors, off of cell phones. So they're not even going through their telco anymore. So that data, again, gets taken up by the aggregators and distributed to all these hundreds and hundreds of sites. And just to show you an example, and you can go to Yext actually and do a listing scan. And I just did one as an example of Guitar School of Texas. That's the correct address and telephone number. Now, remember when I said it had to match exactly, that first one on Google is fine, but it's not been verified through Yext. The second one, there's a difference, and it can be even a small difference. They have Loop, abbreviated LK, whatever that means, on Verizon Super Pages. That listing doesn't even appear at all. Going on, the address on City Search doesn't have the city, state, and zip. A couple more missing listings. More missing listings. Some addresses are right, some addresses are wrong. Going on down here, missing listing. There's one where the business name doesn't even match, nor does the address match either. So that's not good. So this person needs to get Yext to fix all these listings. So the great thing about Yext is that the business is able to capture and convert more local business with these local listings. You're able to turn maps, voice assistants, GPS apps, and local directories like yp.com, DexKnows, Verizon Super Pages. Those are all like internet Yellow Pages or IYPs. And that can be turned into your best marketing channel. You're able to sync and manage your store hours, menu items, phone numbers, and much more to about 200 different services globally. So high intent customers can find and choose you when they search. Now, remember that term high intent customers. Those are those active shoppers, active buyers, high intent customers, and you want to be able to reach them at the moment that they're making a buying decision. So that's why it's important to be found when they're searching with this high intent to buy. You're also able to manage your content with confidence across Yext's vast and diverse network. In the visual, you'll see just an example of some of the sites that you get listed on across the web. And you're able to keep any mention of your business up to date in just one dashboard. So Yext has built direct integrations with these search platforms across the globe and across industries. these deep integrations, you don't just get the breadth of the network, you also get the confidence that people are actually going to see your latest information. I mean, can you imagine having to register and keep logins and passwords for over 200 plus sites? That would, I mean, most people are not going to take the time to do that. So you can just do that all in one dashboard through Yext and make sure that the listings are all correct. You're able to add that robust content all at one time. And you can add a variety of different content to your listing, not just, your name, address, and phone number, but logos, photos, your hours, whether you have split hours, appointment links, and much, much more. Yext knows, because through the integration, they know which sort of content is going to fit on the platform of these other citations. And you're able to update once, again, from the dashboard. You don't have to log into each individual site. Just change the business information inside the Yext platform, and then in real time, all your business details update on all the listings. And, managing your location listings isn't just about getting data out. Because of these direct integrations, they also bring data back to you. So you're able to see a whole view of your local SEO, tracking metrics like search impressions, clicks, and conversions to understand how much business your listings drive. So you'll be able to see the data on how valuable that is. You're also able to see, and just for an example of a Google search, I searched air conditioning repair in San Antonio. And gosh, I spelled it wrong. Let me correct that. There you go. When the search results page comes up, the first three ads are sponsored ads. So you'll see that the ads, that's what we refer to as pay per click. Again, those are paid ads. Underneath the paid ad section is the map pack. And the map pack comes up due to being in a local relevance network. After that, you have the organic results, and that's where the SEO piece comes in. Notice that some of these organic results are actually the traffic partners that we get businesses listed on through Yelp. And then underneath that are the paid ads. If I do roofers in San Antonio, spelled it right that time. Again, you're going to see sponsored ads, paid ads, the map pack. And then underneath the map pack are the organic results. And then you're going to see a whole lot. There's Yelp right there. Home Advisor. Those aren't the providers. They're just sort of like, they're doing SEO to drive traffic to their site for their advertisers. So again, that's why it's so important to be listed on all these places. Besides the SEO benefit, you can also get some traffic through just basic search results. And by the way, let me mention, if you'll go to, if you're using the TW3 app, if you'll go to settings and then go to integrations, be sure to connect your Google account as well as your Google My Business. You can go into Google My Business and enhance your content there. You can also use doing a Google My Business optimization as a closing tool. Offer to do that for your client for free. If they'll go ahead and join with you today, then you can do that. It would maybe take you 20 minutes. And if anyone needs help with that, let me know. I can help you with that. So one of the things that's important to remember in all of this is who's searching and what are they looking for? And that can be broken down into our needict and our rascal factors. Needict, you've got new movers. That is a huge, huge audience that is very profitable for a lot of businesses. You think about, when someone moves into a new house, well, what are they going to need? They might want to replace flooring or carpeting. They might want to paint. They might want to remodel a bathroom or a kitchen. They're also establishing buying habits. So what stores are they going to go to? What restaurants are going to go to? They need doctors, dentists, pediatricians. They need landscapers. They need fitness gyms. All kinds of stuff that new movers are again establishing their buying habits. So that's a huge, huge category. Emergency buyers. If there's a storm, a weather related event like a storm, that creates an emergency. And if there's a hailstorm or a flood or something like that, you've got contractors like roofers, plumbers, gutter repair, fence repair, tree service. I could go on and on. Dissatisfied. If someone is doing business with a company and they end up being disappointed, they're not going to go back. So they're going to look for a new provider there. Infrequent purchase. I mentioned roofers. Well, how many times do you replace your roof? Probably once in a lifetime that you own the house. But for that roofer, that's a high value customer. Change of life events. Getting married, new babies. Think about all the things those folks would need to buy to support that change of life event. What about people who've all their kids have graduated from college or they retire? They're going to have a lot more disposable income. So they may want to do a remodeling project on their house, or they may want to start traveling and doing more things. So that's another big thing. And then transient. If I'm a tourist or a visitor to another city, there's all kinds of stuff I'd be shopping for, like local attractions, restaurants, hotels, all kinds of things like that. And then your rascal factors, what are people looking for? Well, they're looking for reliability. They're looking to see if the business is authorized to provide the service. They're looking for the actual sales and service. Like, do you have what I'm looking for? Confidence factors. Do you have experience? Are you licensed? You'll always see like plumbers, say they're a master license, or they have their HVAC license number, or their plumbing license number, or they're, licensed by the state bar, or they've got a CPA license. There's all kinds of licensing that goes into things. So those are confidence factors, as well as how many years of experience that they have. They're also looking for illustrations. Has an immediate impact on, it's an immediate visual that people are looking to see, like, can you do for me what you did in this picture? And then location. If it's a business where I'm going to them, are they in my area? I mean, how far do I have to drive to get to them? Or If it's a come to me sort of business, like a contractor, do they service my location? So those are all things, your NEDICT and your rascal factors that folks are looking for. And look, I just want to tie this up right now by positioning Yext and the TW3 app really as perfect partners. Because with with those listings being there, as well as the TW3 app, what are we able to do but engage, capture the lead, and then drip to close? And we're able to do that with all these components of the TW3 app. People want immediate results, so that business is able to respond in a timely manner. There is nothing worse than a business who doesn't answer their phone or doesn't return a phone call. And so with the app, you're able to send out those communications. And the other thing is, different people like to contact a business different ways. So whether it's a phone call, a text message, through a website, through an ad, on 100 different places one could advertise, we're able to bring that all in one platform. And I would say that is the value of the TW3 Elite membership, because not only do you have all the benefits of Elite membership, but now you've got another product line, as well as a whole new customer base that you're able to create recurring monthly revenue from as well. So just to, think about that, if you're a business or you're advising a business, the TW3 app and Yext really, really are perfect partners. Thanks for listening, friends, and I'll see you on the other side.
Thank you, Reagan. So, boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, wake the dogs, wake the cats, get everybody up. Get Gertrude out of the couch, get her over to the computer. We've got a special guest in tonight. I don't know how I convinced this guy to even answer my phone, but all the way up there in Gotham, we got the man, the legend, my friend, my counsel, attorney friend, Neil O'Reilly. Neil, how are you doing?
I'm doing great now that I'm with you, Terry.
Now, that's my line. That's my line.
Yeah, I know. I stole it from you. I used it first.
Well, I have done plenty of show prep for this interview. I've listened to Bill Burr, all of his stand-ups, and I went to bed watching Seinfeld last night. So I think I'm covered. I've got the whole Northeast vibe, take no, from anyone. And after this, I'm going to watch Law and Order. So I'm ready.
We'll keep it family friendly.
We'll keep it, yeah. We will keep it rated G for the children in the room today. Neil, we're talking about writing business and writing good business, and wanted to have you on. TW3 has been just rocking and rolling the last 3 or 4 months, and we've talked about some of the drivers of that growth, I think. But I wanted to get you on because we spend a lot of time in our coaching, our training for our members, but also in the public podcast as well. Writing a lot of business can be a great asset, or it can be a great liability, depending on the quality of business you write. And so you want to, especially in that coaching space, that consulting space, when you're offering professional services. There's one thing to be ethically, morally, and doing good business, but there's another thing of that other component that you just have to have right, and that is being covered legally. So could you take just a few moments of your precious time and just give my guys out there, both in the membership here at TW3, but also those who are not members, I'm out there, I'm a health coach, I'm a business coach, I'm a mindset coach, I'm a counselor. I offer a lot of professional services, but I want to make sure that I'm doing due diligence and I'm doing everything not only from a moral, ethical standpoint, but legally, I'm doing it right as well, so I'm protected. What would you tell that client?
Sure. Well, first thing I want to say is I used to do this a lot. I used to work with startup companies a lot. Right now, I don't. Right now, I do estate planning and administration. But this is what I spent a lot of time doing. So the first thing I'll say is a lot of people doing this, they're starting out, they have a brand new business, and sometimes people get a little desperate for the sale. So that's the first problem people have is you have to, it's not a legal point, but as someone who's dealt with people getting sued, when you go back through the chain of where did things go wrong, this is the first thing. So the first problem people have is you have to be confident. You have to approach the sale like you don't need it. Because if you start thinking, I need this sale, we've all done it. I've taken on some clients that turned out to be disasters. I wish I could have gotten rid of them much quicker, but I felt like I needed the money. I couldn't say no. So I get that. But once you start doing that, that's when you start to compromise on things.
Yeah.
And maybe you say something that you shouldn't have said, or maybe you promise something that normally you wouldn't do. So that becomes the first thing. You don't ever want to do that. If you can't walk in, if you can't center yourself before a prospect, before you talk to them and say, I don't need this, you've got a problem right there. So that's the first jump off point. You need to avoid that. The next thing is when you're sitting in front of your prospect, you have to know your principles. You have to know, first of all, what am I willing to do? And then what is it that I actually promise? And make sure that you say the same thing to every person. The first point was a little more theoretical. This point, now we're actually getting into a burden of proof thing. If you're in front of, I'm coming at this now you've been sued. So how are we going to prevent the other side from winning? So the first way you do it is you know what you offer and you say it the same way every time. Because when they say, oh, no, he promised me that he would bring by an elephant and deliver peanuts every third week because I was important. And you can say, no, what I promise is, and you promise the same thing every time. That's what I say. This is how I say it. That goes a long way. Now, when you're saying that, it's not so that you don't want to sound stilted in front of the person, because I do get this is about a relationship.
Sure.
You want the person to like you, but you've got to have a way that you do it. You've got to at least know, I need to know my bullet point, and depending on how this person is reacting, I'm going to connect with them some way, but my basic principles are going to stay the same. Maybe it's a rabid sports fan. They're going to get the sports analogy. The person who is a baker, they're going to get the baking analogy. The engineer is going to get something boring analogy. But that's the way it's going to go.
Right.
But the basic principles are gonna be the same. It's gonna be rye with coleslaw. I don't know what the bread's gonna be, or I don't know what the meat's gonna be maybe. So that's the way it's gonna go for everyone, because that's a big deal. The finder of fact wants to know that. So the next thing is, well, how do I really hammer home that I say the same thing every time? And that is, you have to have your paperwork squared away. So after you talk to someone, you should have a series of, maybe even on your website. I know, for instance, Terry, you were mentioning on your website, you have disclaimers at certain points. It's on the front page, and then it's also on emails that people get. So how do we know that you've said to people that once they sign up, there's no refund? Well, that's what it says also on the website. That's what it says on at least however many emails that it says that to them. You need to be consistent in that way. Don't just rely on your word, because you may win. The goal here isn't to never get sued, because you may. You can't prevent someone from being crazy and marching off to the courthouse.
That is the truth.
What you'll want is for it to be, you want it to seem insurmountable. So maybe it stops them. Maybe some lawyer won't take it, at least to say, like, I'm just not going to deal with this headache. But that person might still sue. You don't know. But as soon as something happens, you want it to get dismissed as quickly as possible. So if you're just relying on things you've said, that's not going to be so. That'll be okay. Maybe you win in the long run.
Right.
But in the short run, if you have emails that you can show and things that they've signed, or somehow where you show that they scrolled past it or they saw it or they were sent it. That's even good enough. There's a lot of things that I send out. When I'm probating an estate, sometimes I have to give notice to all the beneficiaries. I need to give them notice. That's what due process is. I don't care if they read it. If they're lazy and don't read it, that is not my problem. I don't have to call up and say, Miss Jones, did you get it? Do you understand it? I mailed it. They got it. I'm home. Same thing for you guys. It's on your website. It's on your contract. It's on the emails. That's it. That's what you're trying to do. And make sure it all matches. So the thing I would say with that is, the next piece of advice is use a lawyer. I know that a lot of people are thinking, and people may think that, I'm just saying it because I am a lawyer. I told you I'm not in this field anymore, so I'm not going to make money off this from any of you. But you might be thinking about, you do some internet research. Your search is limited by what you searched for. So you may know of 5 issues, but there's 95 you're not thinking about. And if you think about that lawyer you're using, then use someone. They're everywhere. There's people who only deal with small entrepreneurs, small startups. They're everywhere. I could find one in every jurisdiction in about 30 seconds. That's what they do for a living. So not only are they putting in, I had this problem in a past case. That's why I've included this particular clause. But they're going to continue with legal education. In some states it's every year, and in a lot of states it's every other year. But you have to do between like 26 and probably 12 hours. In those CLEs, someone's going to say, if you're doing these types of contracts, this is a clause you have to include. If you don't, it's malpractice. Because that's the thing. That's why an attorney is always a little better to deal with than you just doing it on your own. You don't have a malpractice issue. You have a, oops, I got it wrong, everyone feels sorry for me issue. An attorney literally has their license on the line. So that's a big deal. I would always use an attorney. And when I was dealing with people with this, sometimes, like, let's say the fee could go anywhere from $1,500 to, depending on where you go, it could get up to like $15,000. I'm in New York City, and other places will be cheaper. I'm not saying particularly what it is. That would have been if someone was doing a lot. They needed a lot more than someone else. Let's say someone was doing their contracts and their employees handbook and all these other things. That's when you could get up there. But even if it's just the smallest thing, if I want one particular contract to deal with, that could be really cheap. And if you don't do it right, I can't spare that $1,500. I'm brand new. Don't you get it? One problem, bankruptcy.
Yeah.
Or one problem takes up so much time and energy that your business fails, or it makes you feel like it's not worth it. So don't cut corners up front. I'm not trying to spend your money and say waste your money on every lawyer. I get that there are some not good lawyers out there.
Sure. Take
the time. This is really important. If you're not going to take the time to do this part right, you're not really invested in your business. Is this a get rich quick for you, or is this a do it right for you?
Right.
So that's a big deal. One thing that I would suggest, no matter what lawyer you deal with, I already mentioned you're going to get sued. That's the way you should think about it. I hope you never do. But you should, I'm a lawyer. I have to I don't think about days when it's sunshine and pancakes. I think about days when it's a problem. So if you're going to get sued, how do you want to get sued? So what I generally suggest to people is that they put in what's known as an arbitration clause. I like, what you put in your paperwork is you put it in a number of places. Once you get this, you're not getting your money back. I've given you everything. You're not getting your money back for the first year. It's gone because you have it all. But you still might get sued. So when that happens, the arbitration clause, you want it to be close to you. And I think you would prefer arbitration as opposed to the courthouse, because arbitration is always quicker and it's generally cheaper. But every person who's listening to this should make their own choice. What do I think is best? But you could say, you live in South Carolina, and I know you have arbitration in South Carolina.
Right.
You have that in your contract, is what I mean.
Right.
Doesn't matter where you live. You can arbitrate. Oh, they wouldn't arbitrate in Iowa. Yeah, they would. I'm in Alaska. There's no arbitrator is going to travel up there. There's some attorney who will take on arbitration, or just some person who'll get licensed, or maybe it's virtual. It's cheaper. I would always suggest it. Now, when that's going to happen, it should always be in bigger print. So if the rest of your contract is 12 font, make it 14 or 16, and always make it bold. That's not me just making it up like I think that's a best practice. I know in New York or New Jersey it's required. So if it's required in New York or New Jersey, figure it's required everywhere.
Right.
So just do that. It makes your life simpler. It's not, I want to avoid getting sued. It's when I do, I want this to go away simple. So now someone sues me in the courthouse because they're a headache. So they're going to march down. They don't have a lawyer. They're going to go down and do their pro se papers. That person is always a bedbug, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's great if you can just go down with your answer and say, they signed a contract that has an arbitration clause. This should be dismissed, because the court has a lot of work. They are looking for a reason to dismiss. So now the person has to go through arbitration, which isn't as easy, right? Because they've already done one thing. It took an emotional toll for them to work up the courage and the strength and the anger to file. And now they feel all right, I did it. I'm done. Now I can just float through and the court system will take care of me because I'm pro se and they'll make sure that I get taken care of. Well, no, now you got to go find out how to arbitrate.
Yeah.
Which is more research. So let them do it. And then when it gets arbitrated, you can very quickly, you have to, exchange your paperwork. That's always expedited. With the right attorney, my old partner, Anthony Lepresti, he would always put in his contracts, not just that you were going to arbitrate, but he would put that arbitration will be limited to 1 8-hour session. The exchange of documents will be limited to a request for 25 documents, something along those lines. And it held up every time.
So he defined the arbitration beforehand.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I love it.
So he was dealing with restaurant owners and investors. So they could normally ask for unlimited documents. And he figured, so those are larger, those are multi-million-dollar matters every time, and it worked every time.
Wow.
So make sure that you're thinking about something like that. And again, because if you have an attorney who knows what you're going through and they're easy to find, they want to make sure that when the problem comes, that they're just limiting the fallout. So like we said, the first thing is mindset. You want to start in the beginning. It's tough. I get it, but it's vital. But you got to do what you can do to avoid the problem clients. And the first way to do it is be prepared to walk from anything. Nothing is as important so that you'll cut corners. Never cut a corner. Next, be consistent with what you say. Do it every time. Say it the same way every time. So if you get in front of the finder of fact, you can credibly say, this is what I say. This is how I say it. So I know. How do you know you said it this time? Because I say it every time. And the example I gave you before is when I do a will execution. When someone signs a power of attorney, nobody in the room knows it's a power of attorney. Everyone's just signing a document. The person signs it, the witnesses sign it, the notary signs it. They don't know what it is. It's just, they're just watching a document get signed. But for a will, we stop. I say, this is your last will and testament. Do you publish it to the witnesses right now as your last will and testament? Yes. And then we go through 4 questions every time. And the reason is I've litigated those cases and I know that the courts look for that. So that the attorney doesn't have to say, well, this is kind of what I do. I think I said it this time. Well, do you think? Well, I'm pretty sure. That's what I say. That's how I know it got said. That's what I do every time. I don't have to wonder. So the people, anyone here listening to this, you should get used to that. When you give your disclaimers or the client's responsibilities and your responsibilities, this is what we do. And I know people are thinking, well, I don't want to lose them. I don't want to lose the emotional connection. You should have, if you've done it right, you've built up your emotional connection with your prospect high enough at that point that you're not going to lose them. And I know that because
you've got capital to spend then.
Well, there's successful salespeople out there. You do this.
Yeah.
If you can do it, everyone else can do it. They're not different.
Right.
And if they have the client who's different, no, you don't get it. This one is different. That's the client who's not worth it.
Right, exactly.
Lose that client. The next step, make sure your paperwork matches what you say. And then the last step, like I said, the paperwork is great for having a paper trail because that's black and white. Black and white always works.
So you can prove what you said.
Yeah. A funny story, the last trial I did, I don't do trial work anymore, but the last one I did was in federal court. And I walked into this trial and the judge hated me because my partner had made a motion before I got involved that the judge did not like. So my partner's blonde, probably like 3 inches taller than me, but he looks at me standing next to my partner and he just thinks, two blonde guys, they're both the same to me. I hate them both now. This judge ruled against me every ruling. I didn't get a ruling for 7 days. Nothing. He just yelled at me every day. In front of the jury. He wouldn't even have the jury leave the room. He would yell at me in front of everyone.
Wow.
And so what I did during the trial was the plaintiff was a liar, just lied constantly. So when I asked my questions, I would ask questions where I asked a bunch of stuff throughout the trial that was irrelevant. But the plaintiff's counsel didn't realize it. But I asked I had 10 questions that I knew I was going to ask. And they were tied to medical records. So the plaintiff was lying about certain timing issues. And so it was going to be a he said, she said trial, but I knew the whole trial that I was going to look at those medical records at the end. And I was going to, there was a check-in time and a check-out time. That's what I wanted everything tied to ultimately. So when I summed up, and again, judge is hating me for 7 days. So we're all walking into that closing and nobody in that room likes me except my partner. And when I summed up by saying, wouldn't it be great? Like I feel bad for you people. Like this is a he said, she said case, right? Like, how do you do that? Like, that's tough. Like you got to decide who said what. I mean, that's never good. Like that to me would be tough. And the judge is looking at me like, son, you have lost the plot. Like, why are you telling these people that it's difficult to find in favor of you? And then I said, wouldn't it be great? Like if there was something black and white, something contemporaneous, like maybe like even like a third party document you could trust. I don't know. Like imagine like, what would be something you could trust? Like a hospital, someone with liability. Like if they don't do it right, there's a problem. Like it's literally life or death if they keep a record right. Oh, we have that. What can we compare it to? How about the trial transcript? And then for the rest of my summation, I just compared trial transcript to medical records. This wasn't about me. I'm no genius. It's just nobody was paying attention to me, right? I was doing what I always accuse you of, I was playing Columbo, right? It went so well, but it was because I didn't rely on what anyone said. There was a paper trail that I paid attention to, nobody else did. It went so well that the plaintiff threw away their summation. They asked for a quick recess to rewrite a new summation. This was amazing. I got a verdict in federal court in an hour and 20 minutes. This was the greatest outcome I could have got. We won, defense verdict, firm handshakes all around, but it's because of the paper trail. So that's a dramatic showing for everyone listening to this, why a paper trail matters. Nobody wants he said, she said. Everybody wants black and white. Black and white runs the day.
That's right.
And that's why having an email funnel works, because it's not you writing it up. Dear Margaret, hope you're having a great day. That's written beforehand. That's written with your copywriters. Maybe you have your attorney look at it. And the final thing is when you do get sued, because you will, control it. Don't be at someone else's beck and call for that.
Yeah. Define the terms. If we're going to have a fight, this is where we're going to fight, when we're going to fight, and how we're going to fight.
Right. Ali won because he did the rope dope. He made sure the ropes were loose, right?
Right. I love that. That is awesome. Well, guys, what you have heard is just some incredible advice from my friend Neil O'Reilly. Those 5 things that he just gave, that's what we do at TW3. So if you're a member, that's one of the advantages. Everything that I say is recorded, and I am speaking, basically what our FAQ in terms would say. And you can compare what I've said versus what's over there at any time. So I try to be as congruent as possible. When members come on with you, if you're reselling our platform and stuff, there is a paper trail because we have that out there. We make them sign off on digitally, all of that. My stuff has been vetted by attorneys, and then I consult with Neil quite often. And of course, so we define where we're going to fight, how we're going to fight in those. Those are all advantages by using our platform as a member. But the reason I wanted to have Neil on today is because I wanted to bring this outside of the membership, because we have so many people that are in startups that come to our show wanting to know, how do I do marketing? How do I do that? And you start growing your business and you find yourself in what Neil's talking about. All of a sudden, your heart's in the right place, but your legal position, your butt's not in the right place sometimes. And so you just want to make sure. And it's not a matter of you being a good person or your intent. It's just doing things, dotting that I, crossing that T. I've been doing business since, I've been out on my own since 9/11, the year before, so 2000. I started my own company and everything. I've been in different businesses. And I can tell you, over that time period of 20 some odd years now, I've been sued 8 times. Now, knock on wood, I've never lost. But, I guess it's just because I had enough sense in my mother working in the court system. I had an appreciation of why you need to do things from a legal standpoint as well. But I just want to encourage you guys out there, if you're listening to this podcast, whenever, dot that I, cross that T, get in front of that attorney. It is well worth the investment. There's no need in having your marketing is a great offense, but you better have a great defense, because you can blow a lead like the Braves can any day of the week if you don't have someone in that bullpen that can close it up. Neil, I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate it, Terry. Thanks so much for having me on.
Absolutely. We'll be back right after this.
You're listening to TerryWilson3.com. Inspiring, informative, and entertaining content for the entrepreneur and small business owner.
And now back to our show with Terry Wilson.
So what a great interview from both Laurie and Neil. Next week is our special Thanksgiving episode that you do not want to miss. If you are a member and would like to share your Thanksgiving call 864-507-9696 before this Wednesday, and we'll air it on next week's show. Also joining Dad here in the studio is musician, songwriter, and worship leader Jamie Harville. Jamie has written songs like Ancient of Days, Because We Believe, and Firm Foundation that has been recorded by several Christian artists and played in churches all over the world. Don't miss next week's incredible time of thanks and celebration for being able to pursue our passions, purpose, and individual freedoms. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for listening to our show today at TerryWilson3.com.
Get a free sample copy of the book You Are Worth More by going to TerryWilson3.com now.
If you would like more information on how we can take your money, your business, and your life to the next level, then please visit us online at TerryWilson3.com.